Finding Nemo!
Wow!
Ladies and gentlemen, behold the wonders of the deep!
This sucks. Yep.
We won't take you for a ride. Insurance is a promise to pay. At Beacon, we keep our promises.
Good evening, viewers, and welcome once again to You Decide. I'm your host, Byron Campbell. This evening, our guest is Ms. Judy Benoit. She is the Supervisor of Elections. And our topic this evening is, are we ready for elections? Judy, welcome to You Decide. It's absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much.
We know you're very busy.
Right.
You're having, a month of awareness?
Yes.
And how's that going?
Very well.
Yeah.
Very, very well. We have started, of course, from the 1st of September with an address by His Excellency, the Governor General. On the Wednesday afternoon, the 3rd, I think it was, we had a very nice Thanksgiving service at the St. George's Evangelical Church in Springs. Mm-hmm. And, of course, a number of media activities sensitizing the public. Mm-hmm. We have also started this morning schools education program, and there was a very good session this morning at the GBSS. Okay. The entire auditorium, I don't know if it's in the school, okay, but the auditorium was full, and we have a number of others tomorrow. And on Friday we will be visiting the home for the aged in St. Patrick, mm-hmm, where we will be delivering some items that the home could use, mm-hmm, as well as registering the persons who are resident at the home. And so we are going very well indeed.
Is it coincidental? Of course, in the past couple of weeks we've had vote of no confidence motion being filed. We've had prorogation of Parliament. We've had, there's a heightened awareness, so to speak, of elections and the Parliament. Is this all coincidental, the fact that now you're having this awareness month?
It is coincidental. Yeah. This is the 3rd year we are having this month of awareness. Mm-hmm. Last year it was rather low-key, mm-hmm, because of the lack of finances, mm-hmm, to do a number of, mm-hmm, things that we wanted to do. But this year, because we have just started registering persons, mm-hmm, following the enumeration, and because election is so close, and of course the method of gathering information to register persons, mm-hmm, is somewhat different, and some people are sort of resisting. So we thought it necessary to hype it up this year so that people become more aware of what they're supposed to do, what their responsibilities are, what our responsibilities are, and therefore people would know and understand and go forward and be registered. So it is coincidental, but we think, we need to do what we have to do so that people know what they should do.
Well, let's explore this, Judy. Here you've got state-of-the-art equipment, multi-million-dollar worth of, mm-hmm, new equipment, new, so you're on it. There's the re-registration, so to speak, mm-hmm, of voters in Grenada. Yes. Mm-hmm. So it means that, let me understand this, it means that it doesn't matter whether you were registered before, mm-hmm, or you voted before, mm-hmm, it will not count. What will count by the fact that you registered, mm-hmm, under the new system.
Yes, yeah? And it is not so much to do with the new system, mm-hmm, because whichever way we take it, there was an enumeration pending, mm-hmm, which should have been done in 2008. Mm-hmm. That was not done, but it's done this year. Mm-hmm. I guess it wasn't done because at the time, the equipment used to do that required those Polaroid cameras that you took to the households, and you would take the information and you go ahead and register, mm-hmm, the person, mm-hmm, at the same time. Mm-hmm. Now, because those are no longer available and no longer in production, mm-hmm, we couldn't do that. So we had to find new equipment, and what we could have found is what is now available. right? Sometimes I equate it to asking a child to come to school with a slate.
Yeah.
You and I probably would know about a slate, but now that is not available. Even exercise books are going out at colleges and universities. You know, go now with a laptop or something like that. So it's just what is the trend, and we couldn't find those equipment.
You had to upgrade it.
We had to upgrade. So that is what actually happened.
Tell us about the process. What has occurred since the beginning to now? Where are you in the registration process?
Right. We have had enumeration, and we have had the registration occurring simultaneously.
Okay.
Now the enumeration ended on July 8th, but the registration continues. And as most of us would know from the legislation, since 2006, registration is continuous. That does not end until the Governor General issues a writ for election. Then we stop registration, and when the election is over, then we resume
before you proceed, elaborate enumeration and registration. Explain the difference, similarities, what is involved in these two terms.
Enumeration is basically a house-to-house count of eligible persons. So eligible persons are those persons qualified to be registered to vote. And of course, you know, the qualifications, age, citizenship, etc., etc. Now, in the past, enumeration and registration happened as one and the same thing. But of course, in the legislation, there are two different things. But I guess to facilitate persons and to ensure that you captured all persons qualified, they were done simultaneously. And of course, that was facilitated by the fact that the equipment was movable. You went with it.
Yes.
Now with the upgrade, with the new type of equipment that we have, it's stationed at the office. So enumeration, which was pending, was done. That's a house-to-house count. Everyone enumerated was given a certificate of enumeration. Then, during the enumeration process, they had to take that certificate to the constituency office and be registered. The registration process involved going to the office, giving your information, scanning the document that you carried so that we prove who you are and what you say is correct, the capturing of the fingerprints, the taking of the photograph, and then subsequently the making of your ID.
What if a person missed the enumeration? What happens?
It's unfortunate if they would have been missed in the enumeration, but it is not a detrimental anything.
What do they do?
All they need to do now is go to the office and be registered. Even those persons who were enumerated and did not go to the office to be registered during the enumeration period, they too can go now to the office to be registered. Remembering that registration is continuous even though enumeration has ended.
But there will be a cutoff point once an election is called. What's that process like? There's a cutoff point?
Yes, the cutoff point is actually when the writ is issued by the Governor General for election. So you have official notice that election will be taking place. That time the registration stops until after the election.
There's some notice of that writ being forthcoming?
Well, not as
No. Well, when, in other words, the Governor General issues it, and if a person, you weren't registered, that's it?
Yes, if you're not registered, that's it. And that is why one of the reasons that we have in this month of awareness too, because people, and there are quite a number of persons who think that once they were enumerated, they are registered. And we are trying to tell people, you are not registered until you would have gone out and given that information at the office and have your photo taken, etc., to have your ID processed and to generate your name on the list.
Give us an idea of what amount of persons so far nationally have been registered to date.
Okay, we have in excess, and I actually have it right before me here. We have 45,280 persons as at the 14th of September.
What kind of percentage this represents?
Almost 90%. Almost 80%. When I worked it out last, we were just a little over 70, and then I got these figures which put it a little higher. We are looking at something like 60,000 voters. So people are questioning that.
Well, let me give some numbers, because in the 2008 you had something like 70,000 plus persons registered. You had 56,000. Just over 56,000 people vote, and that amounted to 80.3%. So relating those numbers to what you're telling us now, it seems that a lot of persons are still due to be registered.
Not really. The number of persons who have that vote, well, yes, it's a lot still, because we calculated it to be about roughly 15,000 persons. Just a little under that. But we are saying that 56,000 voted, right?
Yes.
On average, 2008 election.
Yes.
One of the things we have to note is that the voter turnout was very high.
Very high.
Would you agree?
Yes, 80% based on the...
80% turnout, right? Yes. Now, what we do know is that the list that there was, that was used for that election, is overinflated. Quite a number of persons who have been overseas for ages, who may have died overseas. We also had those persons who died here, who were not yet removed from that list. And we have the duplicates and the triplicates, people who have been registered 2 and 3 times. Now, if we had 56,000 persons voting and the turnout was high, and we're looking at 60,000, and I would say maybe to an upper limit of 65,000, then we know that we're almost there. Because on average, with a high voter turnout of 56,000 persons, it means that between at the time of 2008, that would have been in the number of persons who are on the list, right? Legitimately on the list. So if now we are looking at 60,000 or just probably a little over, then we are almost there.
You're almost there. Look, the issue of the theft of equipment at the St. George Southeast office, come both, was of significant concern to particularly the leader of the opposition, or the opposition, the New National Party. You've reported, you've stated publicly that the matter was reported to the police, the right authority, full account of what was given, but the opposition seemed to they're not satisfied with this. They still think that this lends itself to possible fraud and unfair elections, and they have taken it to the point of the OAS in Washington, to understand they're not satisfied at all. What exactly was stolen, though, from this office?
I want to back up a little bit.
Please,
to say that.
Yes.
I think I'm probably even more concerned than any other person. I mean, this thing happened under my watch. I was not in the office when it happened. And I don't know when it happened, but I do know that we discovered the equipment missing. And the moment it was reported to me, we called the police. And the police have come in. They have done all that they would normally do. And in fact, up to last week, I've been told that they're working on some information that, hopefully would help them. It has been taken to the OAS, you said.
No, well, the opposition leader, the Honorable Dr. Mitchell, said that, as far as I recall, that it's of such concern to him that he reported it to the OAS because he was not satisfied that enough was done here as far as the investigation and report and the status of the matter was. So this caused considerable concern to him, and in a number of press conferences, they have in fact spoken about it. So my question is, what exactly was removed? But we have to take a short break. Viewers, please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Waste Limited offers professional septic tank clearance at unbeatable prices. At Sudden Waste Limited, you dump it, we pump it, and we also disinfect it. Located in River St. George's next to Steve's Auto, Sudden Waste Limited for professional septic tank clearance. Also available portable toilets, garbage collection, and garbage bins. Call us today, 435-DIRT. That is 435-3478. Sudden Waste Limited. You dump it, we pump it.
It doesn't matter how many times you've failed. It doesn't matter how much you've heard it can't be done. It doesn't matter how long you've been waiting or asking. No matter what, we believe in smiling again and never giving up. Never give up. Vitamalt takes care of you.
Grenada, Jericho, and Piedmont Day. This one will be huge. Saturday, September 29, National Stadium. Brace yourself as Mega Force Promotion presents another Mega Bingo. Spend $1 million. It's another Mega Force Promotions Mega Bingo. This time you can win $100,000 in cash. $100,000 in cold cash. Life just can't done with all this money. And hear this, your tickets cost only $50. First game starts at 6 p.m. Live band music, DJ Travis and Heavy D. Organize your party now. For this strength of year, $100,000 in cash money bingo to be won. Saturday, September 29. Endorsed by Carib. Real beer is Carib.
Pure, clean, refreshing. A-Tang, premium purified water, produced by the Grenada Bottling Company.
Welcome back, viewers. We're here with Ms. Judy Benoit. She is the supervisor of elections, and we are trying to determine, are we ready for elections? Judy, before the break, we were talking about the theft of equipment at one of your constituency offices, and the question was, or is the question is, what was stolen?
Okay. One CPU was stolen. Two, one from each office. Two cameras and their accessories. And one scanner.
So the two offices were burglarized at the same time?
At the same time. They share one...
Oh, they share one space. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Same location.
Same location.
Okay. So within the CPU, were there software, meaning database, registered persons, that sort of information?
Fortunately, no. The system, which I don't want to go into very much details on, but the system is designed in such a way that nothing is stored on those computers per se. In addition to that, the access to the information, if you need to work on anything, would be captured by the persons who would be able to enter, not only via the use of a password, but also fingerprinting. And of course, the system would recognize the fingerprint of the particular person. Now, even in addition to that, once we discover that equipment went missing, we have disabled the system, so that even if someone was to hack into the computer or so, they will not be able to find any information or to even do anything on our software, our software is not accessible on those computers.
You talk about this, I recall present smartphones, that you can disable them. If they're stolen, it's of no use to the person. The data is destroyed, the phone is burnt out. So how confident are you, though, that no one would be able to access any information, use any information from the equipment that was stolen?
The information cannot be accessed, and I'm very confident because, in fact, since they've been missing and we have disabled it, we are constantly on the system. We check all the time. We do registrations every day. We do verifications and approvals every day, including Saturdays, to try to get things rolling.
So you don't have to register those persons? No, because you have a central...
That's right. And those persons are properly registered, and everything is in place.
Okay, so so that's it. I will move on. The ID card's been issued, has been an issue, Judy, in that I know personally I've had to wait for 5 months from the registration period to receipt of the card. Why is it taking that long?
It's not a matter of it's taking that long for the issuance of the card. It's a matter of it has taken that long from the first set of registration to, let's say, roughly around May almost into June. And that is because, as we explained before, we had some issues with the occupations that had to be changed. Now, we could have done one thing which would have solved all of that problem. The thing we could have done was, while we are correcting that problem, stop registration. We didn't feel we should do that because people have a right to be registered. If we had stopped registration, up to this point, we probably would have been at half.
So is the turnaround time much shorter now? You're saying if a person registered today?
It has always been short. The problem, as I said, is because we had to stop to make those changes on the persons who were not accepting
So what's the approximate turnaround time now for a person registering to receive?
The same as it was before, generally 2 weeks.
2 weeks,
because we are not just taking names and putting people on. The registration officers have to always verify that these people are who they say they are, they live where they say they live, and they actually belong to the polling division and the constituency and polling division where they're going to be registered. Now remember, we're not doing this at home as we did before, and even then it took 2 weeks. Now we're doing it in the office, and while we have persons there who would generally know the people who live within the constituency, they wouldn't know everybody. So we have to make sure, especially if somebody comes in and they say, I'm living right there in, on St. John Street, and you've never seen this person. You have to verify that.
The other point relating to this, Judy, is that significant personal information is being gathered, documented, but more now, because you didn't have fingerprint. This is major, significant, because this is your DNA literally, that is carried there. Who has access to this personal information and potentially has access to this?
No one. Well, what I should say is, according to the legislation, only the persons assigned to do certain things within the office will have access to that information.
Do you envisage any scenario where law enforcement agencies could have access to this information?
They can't have access to that information.
In the case of a major crime being committed, for example, where fingerprints were obtained, your database contained most adults 18 and over fingerprints. Clearly, the crime could be solved from information in your database.
Well, our database is not shared with anybody. In fact, when we were looking at the legislation to govern this entire system, we were very careful to exclude the sharing of information with anyone. And we were looking at the operations of the law enforcers and so on. We thought, well, the only way probably, if need be, that information can be shared is if required by a judge, a high court judge.
Okay.
And we were even told, no, we shouldn't even include that, because this is not information that needs to be shared. And according to our legislation, the data that we collect is not to be shared with the police or with anybody, because we are registering people to vote. And I am hearing other concerns of persons who are not going to register because the fingerprint is there and now they can share with the police. The thing about it is, if the police does arrest you, if they do arrest you, they're going to take your fingerprint. And if they have arrested you in the past, they would have already have your fingerprint.
That's correct.
And when we go to the embassy, we give 10. We only asking for 2. So, I mean, quite honestly and seriously, we are not given, this is not information to be given out, and none of our data is accessible to any person other than the person. And that's another good thing about the system, because if anything should go wrong, I would know who did that wrong.
Look, one of the other points is that we hear there's multiple parties. How many parties are registered, Ms. Benoit?
I don't even know if we could call it registered.
How many parties exist? So you don't have to register.
I don't even know if they exist. But what kind of challenges? We have, I would say, 16 parties.
16.
All in all.
Yeah.
There are 2 parties. One actually is I'm waiting on some confirmation from them, and another one has been somewhat dormant for some time.
And there could be more. But what challenges does this quantum poses for you, particularly in your ballot sheets?
Well, when we would know what goes on to the ballot paper is when nomination day comes. Now, until then, we have to be prepared, and we have to look at this length, the size, etc., etc. Because if for some reason all of these persons would actually run for, then we would have to find a way to include it all on the ballot paper. The big challenge is basically what the ballot paper would look like. That's probably the biggest challenge.
Who do you report to?
No one.
You're the supervisor of elections. Who do you report to? Do you file a report to somebody? The Governor General appointed you? Do you?
The Governor General appointed me according to Section 35 of the Constitution Order of Grenada.
Yeah.
I report to no one, but I would, depending on what activities take place, for example, general elections, etc., I may table a report to the Parliament.
So nobody evaluates you, nobody...
No.
That's quite a job. Look, the OAS, they're involved in elections through the Organization of American States, yes? And in 2008, there was a technical mission in Grenada. And of course, in 2008, our election in July, there was an election mission to Grenada, both requested by the government of Grenada, and they participated. And in both instances, they submitted reports. One of the issues that is consistent in both reports is the fact that they know the onerous work of the supervisor of elections. And they urge, and in both reports, they make a clarion call for consideration that this position, supervisor of elections, be a single position, that person, yourself, ma'am, should be employed only as a supervisor of elections. But I'm to understand that you, in addition to the supervisor of elections, you hold also a position in the Ministry of Health.
Yes, Health Promotion Officer.
Has anybody read the report? You have the report.
Yes, I've seen it.
Has this matter been discussed? Has this matter... well, tell me about this particular point.
I am not sure of that particular issue. What I do know is that in order to change that now, there will have to be some changes in the Constitution. And I know there is a Constitution reform process going on right now. That will have to be changed because, as you know, that is, the way the Constitution
I don't understand. I mean, you're appointed as the supervisor of elections
by the Governor General.
Yes. But the state has also employed you in another capacity.
Yes, but
all that has to happen is that you no longer perform the function in the Ministry of Health.
Not really. It's not as easy as that.
You don't need a constitutional amendment to do that.
Because the Constitution says that the holder of the office of supervisor of elections must be a public officer.
Okay.
So you're a public officer.
Right.
What it did not say is whether that person should or could be on secondment, or whether they should be on assignment, or it doesn't say go into any of that kind of detail. But it said the person must be a holder of. It must be a public officer. It doesn't give any other qualifications in terms of, where, when, what level, or anything like that.
So for practical purposes, you've abandoned this Ministry of Health position.
No.
When last did you attend to matters?
Yes, today. Yes, actually I have been working on a proposal for World AIDS Day, and that was up to today. Yesterday I sent it off to the head of the department to go to the PS, and we are looking at that. And almost every day we are doing something in that regard. In May this year, June, we had the VCT with Scotia Bank, which I coordinated, and so it's yeah, I do it.
Well, we hope that the persons of responsibility will be listening, and clearly the question of our democracy and the position of the supervisor of elections is so important that we really don't want to hear you saying that as an excuse for anything that may go wrong. I was preoccupied with something else. That won't be accepted.
No, that won't be accepted. It's not going to be an excuse in my book. I think there is a way to work through everything. And what we need to really do is look at all of your responsibilities, prioritize, and when necessary, you make the arrangement to be relieved to do what you have to do as it becomes necessary, and so on.
One of the recommendation, the technical mission of the OS was that each political party should appoint a technical representative who should meet with the supervisor of elections or her technical staff on predetermined regular meetings to ensure that concerns are addressed on an immediate or continuous basis. Is this something that you're pursuing?
Well, it is something that we are open to, and I must say, I don't know that the office should be the one to pursue that. The parties, I would believe, should look at that and take up on that. But I must say, though, that most of the parties have been meeting with me regularly, except the National Democratic Congress.
There are some issues pertaining to the mission recommendation, but we have to go to a break. When we come back, we explore this. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Harmony, the complete balance of the senses. Sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste. Create your state of harmony in no time at all with the Baron Gourmet Collection. Baron, we make food tasty.
Spice Basket presents Mystical Magic, a collage of illusions and tricks from some of the best magicians from the USA, featuring Roger Kwan and Broadway performer Andy Roberts, along with other spectacular performances from our very own performers. School's Matinee, Friday, September 28, 1 p.m. 2 shows on Saturday, September 29, 3 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. Tickets available at all Dickens pharmacies, Chopsticks, and Kelly's Hot Spot in Guam. Children $15, adults $25. Bring out the entire family to experience the magical moments that will never be forgotten. 3 magical shows, Friday, September 28th and September 29th at the Spice Basket, home of Grenada's culture.
Superior one-on-one customer service. Phenomenal products customized to your individual style and need. Fast and efficient service are all attributes that have made St. Lou the leading manufacturers of windows and doors for over 30 years in St. Lucia. And we are now pleased to extend our services to you. Try our new single-hung windows, which can be tilted for easy cleaning. Our famous casement windows, which locks with keys for added security. Our gliders, projected aluminum and heavy sliding windows, sliding and commercial doors, commercial shop fronts, and more. Visit us today, building number 19, Frequente Industrial Park, St. George's, or call us at 439-6538.
I just want you back for good. Grenada. That's an answer messenger. DJ Utabo Roots and Culture.
Live on Community Channel 6 every Saturday, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. It's Sound System Saturday.
Welcome back, viewers. We're here with Ms. Judy Benoit, the Supervisor of Elections. Judy, before the break, we want to go further into the OS recommendations, because these are professional persons that have been here, look at our system, particular elections have made. One of the things they looked at had to do with the conditions of some polling stations. They felt they were too cramped, ill-ventilated, otherwise unsuitable for use. And required improvements. Do you know which polling stations they were specifically referring to, and what actions have been taken to implement those recommendations?
The report didn't pinpoint the particular polling station, but I've visited all of the proposed polling stations so far, because we have been looking at places for polling stations, and so I know the ones that are cramped, and we have made some changes in terms of suitability of places. One of the things that we are working on presently, because we have already identified most of the polling stations, is the building of ramps for persons with disability and so on.
Physically challenged.
Physically challenged. We have also looked at those that are cramped, and in some cases replace them. In other cases, and I could pinpoint Hope Vale as an example, there isn't another place we could use. The one that was used will be used again. The persons agreed to allow us, and it is small. But what we are looking at is creating space, most likely by the use of tents and so on, adjoining the building, so that we can have access, even if it's rains or if also. But we are looking into it. We have made some changes where necessary, and others we are looking to see how we can use the same space but expand it in whatever way we can to make it more comfortable and conducive to
we want ultimately free and fair elections, smooth elections. Again, the question of party financing is a big issue came up in the OAS report. And they what they said in that they urged all actors in the political process to address seriously the serious and potential pernicious issue of campaign and political party financing. Specifically, they recommended that the party leaders consider a cross-party accord on campaign financing and media access, which could promote transparency and accountability. Is this something that your office could facilitate?
At the moment, no, and I've not seen anywhere presently where we can take on that mandate. It is not one of the things entrusted to us, and I think we would need a lot more in terms of our mandate, the legislation and so on, to handle that aspect. What I do know is that in many of the countries throughout the Commonwealth and the OAS, especially where there are electoral commissions, that is one of their responsibilities. And in fact, the parties have to account to the election management bodies for the monies and how they spend them, where they have to declare where they got it from, how much was given, what it was spent on, and at the end of the election, the campaigning, they have to give a full report. But we are not given that responsibility.
I know it's not your responsibility. That's why this is why I said facilitate. I mean, for example, civil society. Are you in dialogue with civil society, for example?
Yeah, we are in dialogue, but we have not ventured into the campaign financing bit. I think I personally, myself, and from speaking with the members of staff, we all need a lot more guidance on the issue of campaign financing, where and what our responsibility would be, what we could leave to civil society, whether or not we should be the ones to actually give the guidelines and the regulations. That we don't know yet. And in fact, since I've been in the office, we have been busy with a number of other things, and hopefully a period when that could be looked at would be probably right after elections, when things are quietening down somewhat.
Because the fact that you talked about election commissions, I mean, you would have contact with such institutions, maybe access to their reports or access to the constitution or whatever. And this information could be made available here to the main players.
Yes, we have a lot of information in terms of how it runs in other countries. We know what obtains, we know what they look for, we have reports from the other countries that we can refer to. But of course, it is something that will have to go much deeper than we can handle just out of the blue. It is not something we can just write into our responsibility at this point.
This is why I said facilitate. This is why this is different.
Facilitating at this stage, we would have to know exactly what we're doing, and we'll have to know all the details in terms of how much is allocated to each party,
precisely.
And all
and
of that.
It might also be a useful way of dealing with this might be beginning at something being pursued at the Eastern Caribbean level, even the OS, something that could be done. The other thing pertaining to elections that we saw in the last election is tensions and uncertainty with party activities, where there's a clash of activities. Both parties want to have a motorcade the same day. Both parties want to use the same facilities. This is clearly an issue, and I hope you will not tell me that it is something that you don't care about or you cannot handle, because one of the things that the report went into, they like to see all political parties in collaboration with civil society at an early stage agree and sign an accord on conduct during the campaign to which they will be held accountable, and to address standards of campaign advertising and agree on a calendar of campaign events in advance to avoid conflict, tension and uncertainty in the run-up of elections. That to me seems reasonable.
It is reasonable.
Yeah, because we've had a bad experience with this.
Yes, it is reasonable.
So what is your office?
But again, our office
yeah.
has not handled those type of things. And I guess one of the things too that plays out here is the fact that this is political. The office is non-political,
Precisely.
And this is just the way our office has been established. And in fact, we are supposed to be operating in an unbiased fashion.
Right.
And because of that, and the deep political activities that take place, we are not into it.
But this is the kind of dialogue that can take place with the political parties.
Certainly.
So maybe civil society therefore might be the best.
They could spearhead it. They would be probably the ones to spearhead it and advocate for whatever necessary changes to allow the office to deal with such things.
We go to the line. Good evening, caller. Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Go ahead, please.
Mr. Campbell, it seems that Ms. Benoit is in a very omnipotent position. I am not too sure that election is seen by our politicians as serious enough to have somebody doing it as supervisor of elections as a sideline, because Ms. Benoit has two jobs, and presumably she's paid for both. Can you tease out something more from that? Because as a citizen, I'm very uncomfortable with what I'm hearing and watching.
Thank you. We have another caller online. We'll take your call. Go ahead, caller. Go ahead, caller.
Hello.
Hello. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I would like to ask you two questions, please.
Go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Is how many people have been registered and how many of them got their cards? And number two, I would like to know when have she been in contact with civil society, and then what was the response to her?
Thank you very much, caller. It's a lot of questions there.
Yeah. The first one is how many people have been registered? Well, up to the 14th of September, we have had 45,280 persons registered. How many got the cards? I really would not know. The cards, many cards are sitting in the offices, the various offices, to be collected. Some of the persons we have called, we can't get them on the phone numbers that they gave. Others we have called and they have not turned in to receive their cards as yet. So I really have no... I can't really give you a figure in terms of how many persons would have collected their cards. I know the cards are going out on a daily basis, and people are collecting their cards, you know, as they are called. But there are quite a number of persons who have not collected.
Civil society.
Civil society. Yeah. All the time, whenever we have programs, civil society is invited. In fact, next week, Thursday, we have a forum where we invite political parties, civil society, conference of churches, the media, everybody to come dialogue with us. And of course, civil society has accepted, and I'm talking here in terms of civil society organization, they have accepted the invitation. Also, in terms of the general public, that interaction is daily, every minute for that matter, via phone, in person, and everything else.
Previous caller also, of course, raised the question of the fact that you have two functions, and we've been speaking about that. But their concern was, are you receiving two salaries?
Well, I'm receiving one salary and a stipend, but I'm not the first supervisor that has two functions. It has been that way all the time, as established by the Constitution.
We go back to the line. Good evening, caller. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good evening, Byron. Good evening to your guest.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I want to ask the supervisor a question. Between the time that the computers were missing and the time that she would have disabled it, do you think that someone who knows about hacking into computers, etc., could have had sufficient time to access vital information?
But that I won't be able to answer, because I don't know when the computers went missing. I know when we discovered it missing, and I don't know if anyone knows when it went missing, maybe they should give the police a call. What I do know is that the way the system is set up, the persons could not have gotten into the information at the time, and as soon as it went missing, we disabled the entire, what would have been on that system. So I wouldn't know for sure, what time it went missing and what time between the time it went missing and the time it was discovered. I have no idea.
There's this system that you use has been approved by the OAS.
Oh yes, it has been endorsed by the OAS. We have been in constant contact with them. Our representative here in Grenada is always in touch with me. Up to this evening, I sent off.
Any other Eastern Caribbean countries using this system?
St. Lucia has been using it for 6 years now. The Bahamas is using it. St. Martin is Eastern Caribbean. You said, well, I know of St. Lucia. I know that Dominica is heading probably towards that system as well.
We have another caller online. Good evening, caller. Good evening, caller.
Hello, good night.
Good night.
I just want to ask Mr. Judy, about the registration card. Since 5th of February, I registered and I haven't got my card as yet. Calling in, going in, and no one could find my card, my ID. Can you give me?
That's a question?
Yes, the length of time, and he's been registered over 5 months and he's yet to receive his card.
But he's not the only one, and as I said before, we are working on that. The cards are going out, and as soon as the cards are ready, the persons will be called. Some people are being called and not turning up. Some people, we can't reach them on the numbers they gave. So anyone who know they would have been registered and changed their number, it would help to just give the constituency office a call and find out if your card is there. If it is not, then it will come. But rest assured that even if you do not get your card, once you are registered, it does not prevent you from voting.
And you have to appear in person to receive your ID card.
Yes, you have to.
Fine.
Yes.
We have another caller online. Good evening, caller. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
No, the thing is, I don't think Ms. Dubois is telling the nation.
I am not Ms. Dubois.
Ms. Benoit is telling the nation the truth, right? This is a blatant lie. Because I was registered since January, and lots of others, right in Guelph here, and up till now, every time I go to the office, they tell me I can't get my card. And I don't want to just be registered and I need the card. This is an ID, right? So Ms. Benoit must tell the nation the truth, and that is why we don't have any confidence in Ms. Benoit.
Okay, so what is the lie? I want to know what is the lie.
Okay, thank you.
You're lying because you didn't, the cards are not, check St. John's and see how much people get cards up here. As a big woman, you're lying.
Thank you very much, caller. Explain why we have such a delay in terms of the...
Okay, the same thing that I explained before. Yeah. When we started, we had some issues that needed to be corrected.
Yeah.
We had stopped we had actually had to close the system down to correct those things that the people wanted. Now, what we didn't do at the same time is stop the registration. So people continue to be registered, which meant that we would have had a pool of persons registered whose cards were not being processed at the same time. And subsequent to that, once all was rectified, now we had to start from the January batch to start doing the cards. And it means then that there would have been up to that time a pool of persons, a backlog of persons who would have been registered, whose cards would not have been ready.
Question: if I'm registered, the election is called, and I don't have a card, can I vote?
Yes, you can. Once you are registered, you can vote, and that's what the legislation says.
Okay.
And this is why I'm trying to find out what in particular is the lie, because I never said that everybody got their card.
Right.
I did admit that there are people who did not get their cards, and I explained why they didn't get it.
Yes.
So I don't know what the lie is.
Thank you very much. Good evening, caller. Go ahead, please. You're on. We've lost that caller. Good evening, caller. Go ahead, please.
How are you doing?
Good evening. Go ahead.
I have a question from Ms. Benoit.
Go ahead, please.
The question is, I'm not concerned about those people who's telling you a lie or nothing like that. I'm not into that. My question is, some people have applied for the ID card in February and have not received it as yet. I have a friend who came here 1 month, and in 12 days he received his ID card and went back to Trinidad. How is that working?
Okay.
Thank you very much, caller.
That's the simple matter. Now, there is no chronological order by which the cards go out. Now, if you were registered, let's say in January, and you have errors on your in your registration, we can't send that out. And that is what the January-February batch is going through. Somebody may have come in April and they would have been registered, and like I said before, we are doing it every day. We are not holding up April, May, June, July, August to get rid of the January, February, March, because if we do that, we will always be having a backlog in front of us. So as soon as cards are okay, those without any fault whatsoever, those cards can go out.
Quick question here. I mean, this is a major task. You have to register over 60,000 persons, but you have the required resources, personnel, equipment to do this job in a timely and professional and accurate manner.
Well, I would say there is always room for more.
Yeah.
But
are you asking for more?
Right now, it is not a matter of asking for more or needing more, because even if we did, what we would have to have is probably twice the amount of equipment. Multi-million-dollar equipment. Now, once we know what we are doing, and once we have people following the requirements and having patience, it is going out. We are working. The officer left the office this evening at 7. They leave usually at 7 every evening, trying to get the cards out and so on. They work on Saturdays doing the same thing. We have moved from roughly 5,000-6,000 backlog down to a few hundreds, and that is why we are going to be able to get all of the cards out.
Who do you report your problems and your issues to?
The Governor General, if we have problems, but give me one problem, for example, that needs to be reported.
Hold on, we'll come back to that. We go to the line. Good evening, caller. Go ahead, caller. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Campbell. Good evening, Ms. Beno. Ms. Beno, anybody with basic understanding would realize that there are high inefficiencies within the system, how it is operated now. And all of you said that you do not respond to no one, right? So if you don't have responsible to anyone, then where do you get your guidelines from, right? Who man to see that you're doing everything efficiently? That is why there has to be a problem with the system. Because when Ashby was in charge, I sure that Dr. Kit Mitchell used to oversee what is going on, because the most not is going on. Now, previously, on numerous occasions, you said that your system is built in a way that no individual can hack into it. That is one of the greatest lie I would ever told, right? Listen, now the Pentagon and even the CIA, right? The Chinese and the Russians is hacking into it. And you tell me a little island like Grenada, right? Who even we haven't got a helicopter or something like that, right? I mean, that nobody can hack into our system.
Well,
thank you very much, caller.
I would love to hear the clip that's where I said that nobody could hack into a system. I don't know. But just to clarify that question about who I respond to, and I'm hearing him saying that Dr. Mitchell overseed Mr. Ashby. And as far as I know, no politician is to oversee the supervisor of elections. And I would direct persons to Section 35 of the Constitution Order, and I would also direct persons to the Representation of the People Act, which gives clear guidelines as to what the supervisor of elections should do and how they should conduct themselves.
We take a short break and we come back. Please stay with us.
Jockey photos, huge shots guaranteed. Guaranteed. No fish from Finding Nemo.
Wow!
Ladies and gentlemen, behold the wonders of the deep.
This sucks. Yep.
We won't take you for a ride. Insurance is a promise to pay. At Beacon, we keep our promises.
Saturday, September 29, National Stadium. Brace yourself as Megaforce Promotions presents another Mega Bingo. Just spend $1 million. It's another Megaforce Promotions Mega Bingo. This time you can win $100,000 in cash, $100,000 in cold cash. all this money. And hear this, your tickets cost only $50. First game starts at 6 p.m. Live band music, DJ Camus and Heavy D. Organize your party now. For this spend of year, $100,000 in cash money being out to be won. Saturday, September 29th. Endorsed by Carib. Real gear is Carib.
Love the land you live on. The land is simply awesome and majestic. It feeds, clothes, and shelters us. The land protects us from the Hurricane Ivans of the world. Provides clear crystal waters 24/7. Could you imagine life without the land? I want you to ask yourself this question. Why sadly around the world and in Grenada, lands are slowly dying, slowly dying. With our bad practices every day, my land, your land disappearing, is disappearing. It's what we call land degradation. It show up as soil erosion, post-soil and loss of vegetation. That's how we degrade this Spice Island. With landslides, slippage and dying mangrove, to name a few. So here's what I want you to do. No one wins from land degradation. The power is in your hands to stop it today. Begin sustainable land management and love the land you live on.
Southern Waste Limited offers professional septic tank clearance at unbeatable prices. At Southern Waste Limited, you dump it, we pump it, and we also disinfect it. Located in River St. George's next to Steve's Auto, Southern Waste Limited for professional septic tank clearance. Also available, portable toilets, garbage collection, and garbage bins. Call us today, 435-DIRT. That is 435-3478. Southern Waste Limited. You dump it, we pump it.
Pure, clean, refreshing. A-Tang, premium purified water. Produced by the Grenada Bottling Company.
Welcome back, viewers, and we're here with Miss Judy Benoit. She is the Supervisor of Elections. We go direct to the line. Good evening, caller. Go ahead, please. Go ahead, caller.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Too often we have adults condemning our young people. With regards to some of our previous callers, I think it's about time we learn to have respect and address people in the right way. I find it abusive to have people calling in the program and addressing the supervisor of election in that manner, referring to her as a liar and stuff like that. And I think the moderator have a right to talk to them and discipline our people.
Thank you very much for your caller, for your observation. Our approach to this is to disengage the caller promptly. That is our reaction to the caller. But we agree with you entirely that we demand respect on this particular program. So thank you for your observation. We have another caller online. Good evening, caller.
Yeah, good night.
Go ahead, caller.
I'm not sure. Hello. I appreciate what the young lady said in terms of calling Miss Benoit. Alright. But you see, Miss Benoit was on Jazz Grand program a couple of weeks ago. Speaking on the same issue about election and different things. And basically she speaks on the both sides and she might at some time. So you cannot pause. That's the reason why people have called those people liars. I don't feel it's right to do so. Ms. Benoit said that all the other parties came to her and they have meeting with her whatsoever, except the NDC. And the only reason why is because she working for the NDC during this election. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kola.
Well, you see, this is one of the problems we have in Grenada. People say anything that comes to their mouth. Now, the representatives from the New National Party, they call for meetings all the time, and we give them meetings. Now, they are claiming that they want to be on top of things because they have their own concerns and everything. We have the PULP coming all the time. Most of the active persons, we have all the new parties, they come in all the time. I've not had any real request from maybe because they're the ruling party and they're busy doing whatever they're doing. But this is it. I'm not working for any party. I'm working for the Parliamentary Elections Office. I work for the Ministry of Health, the government of Grenada, but I do not work for a party. Now, when people say things like that, I wonder if they could stand up to this in a court of law. Because you're accusing me of working for a party, and I'm directing persons again to Section 35 of the Constitution Order of Grenada. Read it there and see what it says, and how it says the supervisor of elections shall operate. There's no party in Grenada that could accuse me of being an activist for them or being working for them. All I'm saying is that the others are taking up their rightful, responsibility and what is due to them in terms of having meetings and looking at what is happening. We have invited all the parties we have listed to a forum next week, including the New National Party and the NDC. We will see who comes.
Mrs. Beno, this is all the time we have. We really want to thank you. We know you have a major responsibility, tremendous work as we go forward, given the anxiety, given what is in the air presently. I mean, the question is, are you ready? We hope you're ready. We do want to wish you the best in this activity. Thanks for being here. Viewers, that's all the time we have. Please join us next week. Thank you and good evening. Bye-bye.